Hello, dear viewers, and welcome back to another packed episode of This Week in Canada. My name is Roberto Wakerel Cruz, and with me
is Nico Johnson.
This week, we're going to go back into the Stephen Guilbeault internet bill that has taken over Canada and gotten a lot of people angry. But before the episode starts, why don't you go to the links below and check out all the ways to support us and check out our free premium content. It's free, and it's just another extension of This Week in Canada for you to enjoy. Buy a t-shirt, buy a mug, like and subscribe, and stick around to the end because we have some little sad news coming for you that you might want to hear. But let's just get started. Let's get the ball rolling.
Hi guys, I'm really hungover, but I've been reinvigorated because Trudeau is trying to pass a sort of quite malicious bill. Isn't that right, Bobby?
Yeah, so if you remember from last week, we did go pretty in-depth about it. It's a bill called Bill C-10, and you might have heard about it since last week as it is blowing up everywhere across the internet. I've never seen an issue blow up. I guess I have, but I mean, this has caught fire like nothing has in a long time. So this is the bill that Stephen Guilbeault introduced, the Heritage Minister, our friend from Greenpeace who climbed the CN Tower. Mm-hmm. He is trying to create a bill that would basically do what the CRTC does to radio and television, where you need a certain amount of Canadian content exposed to tell Canadian stories, this kind of whole fun stuff that we've dealt with forever. Like when you're in the car listening to the radio and 30% of the songs have to be Canadian, and you just listen to a bunch of bad music. So that's kind of what is going on here, but it's going on with YouTube now is the latest target, and all social media posts by just the general public. And this bill is upsetting people in a way that I didn't see coming. Well, I guess I did, but I'm happy people are really starting to take notice of it.
Yeah, no, it is right. It's received a lot of traction, and you know, it's not only Conservatives who are upset by all this. It also happens to be ex-CRTC commissioners who have used very strong language, going as far to say, I think, and we can put the quotes on the screen, saying this is an affront to our democracy. This is hubristic. And I think that's correct. It seems to me that's pretty much the view held. There's a pretty strongly worded National Post article. It's filtering into the mainstream media.
Yep. Now,
it's important to understand the context of this. So this is coming through a recommendation, which I think a CRTC report made 2 years ago. And the original purpose of this bill was to make Canadian streaming sites more competitive, or Canadian content more competitive with American content.
So like Netflix and all those ones.
And what Stephen Guilbeault, who's a radical, we've been over this. The guy is an ideologue of the worst kind.
Yeah.
He used it as an opportunity to pick up one proposal, which was, okay, well, let's, regulate the internet. And he's running with it. So not only is he regulating things like YouTube to make sure that, let's say, you're subscribed to certain Canadian channels, or that, the videos you see on the homepage, they have to be a certain % Canadian. But it also goes into regulating media sites. Again, if there's hateful comments or hateful messages or disinformation, and who determines that? Guess what? Stephen Guilbeault
does.
It has to be taken down in 24 hours. So it's really sweeping. It's really authoritarian.
Right.
And it attacks freedom of speech on two fronts. Firstly, in your choice, in what you can watch, what you want to watch, and also, more importantly, on what you can say. So I think there's good reason to be pretty concerned by it.
Yeah, and another reason why I think people are really starting to take notice is because of this very powerful minority party called the NDP. Have said that they're going to take a look at the proposed bill. This came during a press conference with Jagmeet Singh, who said basically that this bill was going to be something that it was worth exploring, look closely at. And if
means they're going to support.
Look at the track record of the NDP saying they're going to look closely at something, it generally means they're just going to side with the Liberals.
I don't know what the Liberal Party has on the NDP. I think just basically total power because the NDP doesn't have any money. But the NDP has had to side with the Liberal Party on basically everything.
When was the last time they disagreed on anything? I can't even really
The Liberals might as well have a majority because the NDP will support the Liberals no matter what.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And the other thing that's kind of happened, and just recently as we record this, Conservative Party leader Erin O'Toole took to Twitter to post a video showing just how bad this legislation is. And let's just roll a quick clip of it. But I want to talk about it after.
This is important and something you deserve to know about. Justin Trudeau and the Liberal government are in the process of pushing through legislation that will restrict your freedom of speech on social media. It's called Bill C-10, and its original purpose was to level the playing field between streaming services like Netflix and Canadian broadcasters. But now, Bill C-10 actually gives unelected bureaucrats open-ended authority to censor the internet and regulate what Canadians post on social media. That means that you're...
So Aaron O'Toole there making some pretty strong statements, and I think what the Conservatives have found out or are realizing is that this is a winning issue.
Yeah, and the video was really, really good.
Yeah, it's great. It covers all the bases. It's well done. It's direct, and yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to say that Aaron O'Toole is looking pretty slim these days. I don't know what, maybe has a fitness coach or something, but he's almost as good looking as Justin Trudeau, which would help in the next election, I think.
Well, we did talk about this a little bit on the premium episode where I did ask, like, do you think if Aaron O'Toole had hair, do you think he would do better in the polls? And you said yes. So I think because people are, a lot of voters are shallow, right? But at the same time, you want your candidates not just be handsome, like Justin Trudeau is, I guess, if that's your type. But you want them to have good policy. And this is definitely policy that I think young people would care more about. But I think everyone would actually care about, but young people especially. There have been instances in the past of, I remember that time in the U.S., I can't remember exactly what it was. We can pull up the article just as a refresher. I'll find it. But it was something to do with regulation of internet and what services, what internet services could throttle your internet. And I remember at that time, everyone really got behind making this thing not happen. And I think a similar thing's happening.
Yeah, well, I think, look, this is a fantastic opportunity, as you said, for the Conservatives. Firstly, because it is patently bad. I don't know where he will find support for this. Who can, you either have to be willfully blind or just slightly stupid to support a bill like this. And on top of that, they're targeting YouTube.
Yeah.
And the thing about YouTube is that a hell of a lot of Zoomers watch it. It's part of our, young people like me. We all watch it. It's part of our culture.
Yeah.
And if you attack something like that, it's a very good way to get young people to oppose you. And hopefully the Conservatives, and again, if the first video is anything to go by, then I think this could actually sort of change the pendulum a little bit in the Conservatives' direction.
A little bit. So JJ McCullough, who is a columnist for, I think, the Washington Post, did a really good video on this, and he's describing what he thinks would come of it, and I kind of agree. This would include special Canadian kind of box or recommendation boxes on your YouTube to basically push you to kind of watch what content they deem Canadian and acceptable.
Yeah.
This kind of nonsense.
And it's not just like produced in Canada.
No.
It has to be a Canadian narrative, which is why Stephen Guilbeault said explicitly today that he, if this bill goes through, will highlight such content as Indigenous, entertainment or, from minorities in Canada and stuff like that. And you know what? YouTube is not a place where you necessarily want to be informed by that. It's just, let us have our entertainment.
Yeah, and just to repeat one of JJ's points that he makes really well in the video is that the way that the CRTC kind of determines Canadian content is through this weird, archaic, doesn't make sense lens, where a movie like, I think it was Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which was produced in Canada with Canadian actors, directors, and the whole lot, was not deemed Canadian, but a documentary that was made in India on Gandhi was considered a Canadian story. So just to kind of put into perspective what we're dealing with here, it's not going to be objective and it won't be good for creators. It's actually could harm Canadian creators unless you probably abide by a certain ideological frame. The other thing I want to talk about, and I think is worth exploring and thinking about a little bit, is I kind of fear... in the U.S., how whenever Trump said anything that he was pro, the establishment were automatically against it.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what, right? It could be something as basic as like his vaccine warp speed thing. That every time he did anything, even though it was good, they couldn't give it to him that it was a good thing that he was going for, right? They had to be against it. Is there any chance I think that could happen in Canada where people look at what the Conservatives are supporting and they go, oh, it must be bad because the Conservatives support it?
Well, I think, firstly, I've seen a few of those sort of true anon types on Twitter already defending it, saying, you don't understand freedom of speech and what that actually entails. I don't know. This is a pretty direct attack on freedom of speech, obviously.
Yeah.
And secondly, a point to that would be no, because Canada, I don't think, is quite as polarized, and people right now are still fairly sensible over things which harm them. And this isn't a partisan issue. This harms everyone ubiquitously. There's no hiding from it if it goes through. Now, it all depends. Maybe the NDP will come to their senses and realize how unpopular this bill will be.
What are the odds of that, though?
I just don't know.
Yeah.
And if so, I suspect this bill will be grounded until the next election, where the Trudeau Liberals probably win a majority, and then they'll just push it through with no opposition whatsoever.
Yeah.
I mean, surely, maybe, can there be a challenge in the Supreme Court? Like,
Well, I mean, I mentioned last week Stephen Guilbeault was saying that this is not a bill that has really been tried in any other country, so it's kind of hard to predict where this is going to go.
Yeah,
because there's no stat like a what's the word I'm looking for? There's no measure, I guess, of how this kind of thing plays out. It will be interesting to watch. I'm kind of afraid because
you're afraid.
I'm afraid. I'm a little bit afraid because these bills just keep coming, and especially I think we were talking about last week. Stephen Guilbeault is so ideological, and this just seems like such a
evil.
Great power grab. And I keep seeing these people, like you were saying, these TrueAnon types on Twitter being like, "This is about hate." Like some of the stuff they're like, "This is backed because we pulled up There, let's put the poll on the screen. Actually, it was about percentages of Canadians that have experienced racism online in the past, and then a percentage of Canadians that believe that publishers should have to take down their content within a certain 24-hour time period. So I think with that kind of identity politics messaging, I think they might win over some people. But I'm hoping that enough people wake up to this and just go, no, this is no good for anybody. I mean, the YouTube's fine. It has its problems, but we don't need this whole new bureaucracy to just decide what's Canadian enough and what should be seen by. It's because the CBC's just failed so hard at telling Canadian stories that they need to branch out now into the internet, which they're way behind. They don't have any content. I'm sure if you go on the CBC's like entertainment page on YouTube, it's probably got no views. So now they have to dictate what everyone else in Canada can see. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what can you do? Well, there's a bunch, I guess, though I guess you can't do anything. But you can spread the word. You can spread the word in a bunch of ways. We have a petition, if you go to the links below, that you can sign to make your voice be heard on this level. What else you could do is you could share this video. You can check out and get yourself informed on this topic through tons of outlets have covered this. I think the Toronto Sun has covered it. Brian Lilly did an article on it. The National Post has done great work on it. Even the Toronto Star, Blacklocks, if you have an extra $400 to spare that you want to get through that paywall, you can go through Blacklocks. There's lots of ways to educate yourself on this and to spread the word. This is, I think, the most quickly I've seen everyone get angry at a piece of legislation in a long time. And I'm talking about like across the aisle, you know?
Yeah. And you know what? Share this video. I think this is genuinely an issue that's a bit dull and kind of complicated, but it's really going to affect the lives of Canadians. If we can tell more people about it, then perhaps public opinion will shift. And if anything, the Trudeau Liberals do seem to respond to public opinion. So, I think that'd be important. Also, if you happen to live in a Liberal or NDP constituency, just email your MP. Say, I'm not up for this. And if you're in an NDP area, I think this would be particularly effective.
Yeah. What do you think Trudeau thinks of this? Like, do you think he's mad at Guilbeault? Or
I think it's very little. He's put very little thought into this.
Yeah, I don't think this is anything that he's paid attention to.
I think this is a real Guilbeault sort of drive.
And once again, this guy's the heritage minister. He should be doing like Canadian heritage moments or something. I don't even know what.
Bring back the
Canadian heritage moments. So like, I don't know why you have to censor the internet to make everyone more gung ho about Canada.
Yeah,
jerk. On a different topic, we have some serious news about the show This Week in Canada, the show you're watching right now. And it has a little bit to do with our friend Nico Johnson here. Nico, why don't you take it away, buddy?
Hey, guys. I've spent a long time at the Post Millennial. I think it's been around a year and 7 months. And I spent 2 years in Montreal with the guys. Long time. And I'm afraid to say, and I'm quite emotional about this, I'm leaving. And I'm going to miss you all dearly. I'm off to Ottawa, which is only 2 hours away from dear Roberto, but I won't be able to do this anymore, I'm afraid. So I'll miss you all dearly. Thank you so much for tuning in. And, I hope you enjoyed it.
We will miss Nico somewhat, and we're going to try to keep the show going. So we don't know exactly what's next. We hope Nico joins us again at some time, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case for now. So Nico, thank you for co-hosting the show with me all this time. Maybe we'll try to find someone less annoying that will carry the show a little better for us, but I'm sad you're leaving. So everyone in the comments, why don't you say goodbye to Nico? Let him know how much he made you laugh or cry or annoy you, really, is probably the more likely thing there. But other than that, we're figuring it out here at the show. We're going to try to keep the show going. So, anyway, should we go to the outro here?
Let's go to the outro.
I'm going to miss Nico. And if you'll remember, this is the second time Nico's left. Nico has another goodbye video, and he came back. So maybe he'll come back. Thank you for watching this very interesting and somewhat serious episode of This Week in Canada. If you liked what you watch, you can go to the links below and you can support us in a multitude of ways. We have premium content that is still free, and this is just an extension of the podcast, me and Nico shooting the shit a little bit. We also have t-shirts, we have merchandise, we have mugs, a big mug that says CBC Sucks on it. Join our mailing list to get updates from us all the time, as fast as you can, as soon as it comes out. Or just give us a donation on PayPal. It all goes a long way.
Wow. What a wonderful segment. I really enjoyed this podcast episode in particular and the podcast as a whole. It's been a wonderful time, and I'll see you guys soon. Ish.
Bye.
Bye.